Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Connie's Corner. I'm Constance, and today I'm going to be talking about Moulin Rouge. Why? Because I can. Because I can. Because I can. Because I can. All right. Moulin Rouge. Now, I didn't see this on Broadway. I saw it on tour. It came close to me. I got very cheap tickets. I'm very happy about that. Went to see all the shows. Got to make up for lost time for COVID. All right, so quick rundown of the cast here on this particular day. So Christian was played by John Cardosa. Again, I'll put names here. Satine was played by Courtney Reed. I believe she just moved to Broadway between the time I saw it and filming this, I think. I'll fact check that. Harold Ziegler was played by Austin Durant. The Duke of Monmouth was played by Andrew Brewer. Toulouse-Lautrec was played by Nick Rashad Burroughs. And going based off the picture here, she plays like the lady of the night who's kind of mean to Satine. Here it's listed that her name is Nini, I think. Well, in this version, she was a blonde. She's the one who kind of talks the most. That was played by Libby Lloyd. Just wanted to give her a shout out too. So what did I think of this? Again, I've mentioned on this channel before that I'm not a big fan of, hey, that was a movie. Let's make that into a stage show. But this is different. This was a movie musical that they made into a stage show. And I'm happy to report that it's not a carbon copy. If you're familiar with the movie, if you're a fan of the movie, this is very much the same story, but they tweak it. And there's certain things that obviously they can't do exactly at the movie because the movie was directed by Baz Luhrmann, who is cuckoo. He likes crazy camera angles and editing. Well, you can't do that on a stage show. So that element's not there, but boy, do they make up for it otherwise. To me, there's not a whole lot of spoilers with this. I'm going to save what I think is the real spoiler for the end. So baby spoilers for the movie of Moulin Rouge and this because they're so intertwined. Okay, so screen to stage adaptation. How do I think it went? I think it went very well. I love the movie. It's very near and dear to my heart. I've always thought it's just a bit of silliness. So I love it for what it is. I do love this version too. I'm trying to decide which one I like better. Depends on the day. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I just have this nostalgia for the movie. I'm like, oh, but I like what they do in the stage show. It's just so fresh and so I mean, let's just live in a world where we like both, right? We don't have to pick a favorite, right? Now, I think you could have called this Kitchen Sink the musical because boy, everything's in it. Everything is in it. And it is big. It is spectacular. Spectacular. Boy, do they go, they don't hold back. And this was just the touring show. I love this so much. I love what this did. I know the more permanent installation that is on Broadway can do even more because it's a permanent, well, as permanent as a Broadway show can be, more permanent residence. If this is what the tour version can do, I know Broadway's is bigger. So I kind of want to see it again on Broadway next time I go to Broadway if I can score, a lottery ticket or something. I'm gonna try because oh boy, as a tech person myself, boy, is there a lot of tech. There's a lot of tech in this. There's a lot of tech in this show. This show looks expensive. It's funny. I love Phantom, but I'll tell you the interviews about Phantom that piss me off are they're like, well, it's just so expensive. Nobody's doing what we're doing at Phantom of the Opera. Oh, I beg to differ. Moulin Rouge is totally doing what Phantom did. They might be doing it more because they have a huge ensemble and they have a lot of costumes, and I would argue a lot of them are not even necessary costumes. So, I mean, this looks expensive. There's a lot of tech, a lot of scenery, a lot of costumes, a lot of lighting. Oh my God, the lighting. So everything is just so big and epic. A lot's going on. So if you need visual candy, Moulin Rouge is your show. Okay, this is the thing to go and see because it is meant to be experienced. You need to be in the room with all these elements because they throw a lot at you. There is no time to breathe. But I like it. I was totally there. I'm all like, put me on the roller coaster, man. Let's go. So it's fast paced. It's fun. Now, like I said, it's not a carbon copy of the movie. It changes some things. Um, is it for the better? I think so. There's certain things that I don't like that both the movie and the stage show are fall victim to. So this is where we get into like the real like spoilers because this is about plot stuff. Okay, so the gist of it is there's a young man who goes to Paris and he goes to this nightclub called the Moulin Rouge. He meets these, bohemian underworld people, and they live like there's no tomorrow because for some of them there is no tomorrow. Foreshadowing. And he meets Satine, who is a courtesan, and she's promised to this duke who's a new investor, and he's going to change the Moulin Rouge from a nightclub into a legitimate theater. The Moulin Rouge is currently being run by Harold Ziegler. And so you have your love triangle, but Satine is also dying of some mysterious disease. Well, it's not mysterious in the stage show. They just come out and say it. It's consumption. This is La Boheme, a modern take on that famous opera, which is very much the same plot line. And she dies at the end. What I don't like plot wise, I don't understand why this story has two villains. They want you to the show and the movie want you to do this whole, what is she going to choose? Is she going to choose a comfortable, secure life with the Duke, or is she going to choose love and living an impoverished life but full of art and truth and beauty and all the other things that are in the part of the tagline of the show with Christian? Well, it doesn't matter because she dies. I don't understand why she has the disease and they're like, which will she choose? It doesn't matter who she chooses. If she had gone with the Duke, she would die anyway. So I would either get rid of the disease so that the which will she choose have more stakes, or change what the Duke's role is in relationship to her so he's not really the villain. And he's not as much the villain in the stage show as he is in the movie. But it's funny that both the movie and the show want there to be these stakes of like, oh no, what's going to happen? I'm like, she's going to die. And that's not really a spoiler. Well, it kind of is for the stage show. I don't know how blatantly they tell you. Let me tell you the story about how I met this girl who died. The movie is much more, I met a girl and she died. Let me tell you about it. So they do that whole reveal the ending, and then they're like, now let's watch how we got to that ending. So I have real issue with that. Now in the stage show, the Duke is very different. He's not this weird, like weaselly, sniveling, like she's mine. He does realize like, hey, I really like you and I'm willing to do all this stuff and give you a comfortable life, but I can tell you're not really into me. So he's not as dense, I guess is the right word. And I don't know, they just, it's altered quite a bit. I kind of like him better in the stage show, but I don't know, there's just certain elements about the movie that I just find so funny. So I like Movie Duke for what he is as well. But it is different. But everything else is pretty close to how you see it in the movie, again, if you're familiar with the movie. So it's a lot of spectacle. It is a jukebox musical. But to me, the real spoiler is, how is the music done? Now, it's not that this was ruined for me, but a little bird who did see the Broadway version did tell me, oh hey, the songs are not exactly the same, and that's all I knew, which is all I needed. I did not need to know anything else. But I think it's good if you go in not knowing. And the funny thing is, now, if you've seen this on Broadway, I would love for you to comment. In the tour playbill, they do not list the songs in here, which is very odd. I mean, I've seen that a little bit here and there, but I was like, what? Well, now I understand why. Because I did get, after the show was over, I got the cast album, and when you see the titles of the songs, you go, oh, okay. If they had listed that, it would give away what they're gonna do. And it is a nice surprise. So I think if you don't know the music to this show, the stage show, it's better if you don't know. I think the surprises are nice. Now, if you're like me and you love the movie, you might go, what? They don't change everything. There are certain songs in the movie that are definitely present, but not every single one makes the cut. And there are definitely a lot of new ones. There's a lot of music going on, which is fine, not a problem. But I said I'd save that for last. So just know that to me, it's the music itself. I think is the only real spoiler about this show. So let me backpedal this and talk about a couple other things. I really love Toulouse in this show. Oh my God, I loved him. He was so good, and I felt like he was fleshed out better. You know, in the movie, he pops in and he has a few key moments, but he's largely absent. It really is just about the main four leads in the movie. I do like that there are other characters who get a bit more stage time. They feel not as cartoony. I think that's good. And it's making good money. I've been looking at the box office every week just to kind of stay in the loop. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I don't know what it needs to make, but it's in a good place. But let's say they're like, look, if we don't tighten our belts, this thing's going to close. There are things I think they could cut. I don't know why the ensemble has the amount of costumes that they do. I mean, they're not bad. They wear them so briefly. And there's so many things that they do in the show. I worry that they're afraid to get too far from the movie because they don't want to upset the movie fans. Like, let's take the Elephant Love Melody song. They do things in that number, and I swear it's just because it's the movie. Christian gets a special glittery like tux jacket and an umbrella, and he swings around on a scaled down Eiffel Tower. It's only on stage for like a second and then it's gone, and I'm like, okay, you didn't have to do that just because it's in the movie. I'm talking about stuff like that, like not everything that's in the movie is here, and it's okay. The things that I had to have are there now. Everyone's different. There might be something that was cut that when you go and see it, you might go, no, not that. So yeah, I definitely see some fat that can be trimmed, but that's only if they need to. Maybe they don't need to. I haven't heard any whispers that they're closing anytime soon. I haven't heard anybody say they're in trouble, so maybe it's okay. But is there fluff? I think there is. But it's okay. It's spectacle. This is Spectacle, the musical. It is big, it is loud, it is in your face, it is glittery, it is provocative, it's funny. And I mean, it is heartbreaking. We have death in here, but it's not, I don't know. Funnily enough, it's not a downer, if that makes, oh, I didn't think it was. So yeah, I'm trying to think of other specifics. I don't know. I'm just dying to get to what I think is the meat of this review. So if you like Spectacle, go see it. If you love the movie, I don't think this will disappoint. It just depends on how particular you are. It's married to the film enough where you'll recognize it, but it's not a carbon copy so that you go, well, I'll just watch the movie then. It's definitely its own thing. Now, if you don't like Spectacle, if you don't need bells and whistles and fanfare and confetti and all the trimmings, if that's just a lot of visual noise to you, I could see why you wouldn't like this show. Then you can skip it. All right, I want to get to what I think is the real spoiler. I'm not going to actually name things. I'm not really going to spoil it. So, okay. Let's take what I think is weird about the music. It's cool what they do. They integrate things. This is all about the orchestrations, which I know nothing about. I do not have a musical ear where I can go, oh, okay, you're doing that at that tempo, and you're doing that with those instruments. And if you intertwine them here, it's seamless and da da da. I know all that's a thing, but I don't know how to discern it. Okay, so let's start with an example. I made some notes here. So, Elephant Love Melody appears both in the stage show and the movie. The movie version has roughly 10 songs in it, and it's like a 4-minute song. Okay. The musical version is 5 minutes long, but it has 19 call shout outs to assorted love songs. It kind of feels like they did that on a dare. Like someone said, I bet you can't squeeze 15 plus songs into an already established medley of love songs. And the musical writers of the show were all like, challenge accepted. I mean, name a song. The song is in this show. There are so many songs in this show. I will spoil a couple of things. Okay. Like a Virgin is not in the stage show. If you like the movie, I'm a little sad about that because I love what the movie does, but I have the movie. If I really want to see that, I can put the movie in anytime and enjoy what Harold Ziegler and the Duke, their rendition of Like a Virgin. It's funny. It cracks me up. To me, that's like the big one that's missing. I don't know. Come What May is still here. Elephant Love Medley, it's just different. Roxanne, very important. To me, Roxanne is like the je ne sais quoi. It's in here. They tweaked it. It's not identical to the movie, but I think that's okay. There are so many songs. I'm going to very quickly list them here. I'm going to list them alphabetically to keep the surprises coming. You need to go in this not knowing what's going to hit you when. Things will come out of nowhere. I like it, but I don't know if I love it. Again, I don't know, it feels like a dare. It feels like someone said, stuff as many songs into this show as you possibly can. And there's no rhyme or reason. They span all decades, genres, singers, and groups. They have nothing in common, really, other than they're all music. But they're clever. Maybe they're just showing off, going, ooh, look at all the things we can strum together. I'm so smart. I'm so clever. It is clever. But you are a little exhausted by then. A part of you is kind of like, oh man. I'm a less is more kind of person, and this show is definitely more is more. I didn't hate it. I definitely want to see it again. I want to see it on Broadway to get the full immersive. I know it's not super immersive, but it's more immersive than the tour can possibly be. But I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I'm like, do you just not trust the material? Are you afraid of movie fans? Do you feel like you have to make sure you're definitely your own thing? Like, oh, let's make sure we have our own identity. I don't know. I have issues with that. This is a show that definitely lives or dies by these choices because it is a jukebox musical, and maybe it doesn't want to be associated with that. Although this came out early days when jukebox musicals weren't really like they hadn't reached the zeitgeist of our everyday vernacular. Because it's not like other shows. Most shows, it's a jukebox musical either on a specific singer or group, or at least a genre. But this is such a mixed bag. Hence why I call this Kitchen Sink the musical, because it's got everything. It's got humor, it's got death, it's got betrayal, it's got rap and country and pop and I mean, just name a thing, it's in here somewhere. I mean, it's just chock full. It is full. It's brimming. It is marinated. It is not subtle. Subtle is not a word to use for Moulin Rouge, the stage show. Everyone did a good job. It was definitely over the top. It looks expensive, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think there's room for everything. I like small shows that only have a couple tables and chairs, and then it's just like 6 people. But I also like this where it's like cram everything in there, spend all the money we don't even have. Let's just spend it. I think both are fun. Um, this is Cuckoo Bananas, the musical. It's so silly. The audience laughed. I mean, it took them a while. I feel like my exact audience at first didn't know what to do with this. So it was kind of like, huh? But by act two, there was definitely much more laughing. And when there's like a reveal at the end, my audience actually went, oh, like I was shocked that they reacted as loudly as they did. So when they're doing that, and because I wasn't expecting it, I laughed. Um, yeah, but as we walked out, I definitely heard people around me going, "Oh, that was good." I'm glad we like. It sounded like that people around me were thinking about skipping. Or like, "Oh, we weren't going to go see this." Oh, I'm so glad we chose this show and not some other show. They named the show, but I don't. I honestly don't remember what they said. So I think they had a choice. They're like, we can either do Moulin Rouge or, and I think they were on the fence, and they're like, okay, Moulin Rouge, and then they ended up going, oh, we're happy. It's silly. It's very silly. I want to see it again. I don't think this will run for 5,000 years. It might. I mean, people, haters of Phantom say that's nothing but fluffy spectacle. Well, this is definitely fluffy spectacle, high drama romance like Phantom, just in a different way, and definitely with catchy, super catchy music. But it just has some silly elements. Satine changes costumes often, and I'm not always sure why. And again, I don't know why the Duke is, he's sort of a threat, but he's sort of not a threat. What I would have done, since we're talking spoilers now, what I would have done, instead of making him a love interest, I would have just made him like hungry for power, like I want the Moulin Rouge and you're all going to do things my way. Because what they do to boost Toulouse's character is he has way more to do, he has way more to say, and he and the Duke actually fight over artistic differences. And that was all much more fascinating. I think instead of making him a love interest for Satine, it would have been better if he just said, I'm in charge because all of you are poor and you don't have the money and the power that I do. So you're going to do what I want. So maybe it's the choice of, do we live and die by our art, or do we conform and accept security and do things the Duke's way? Like, he doesn't have to be romantically involved with Satine at all. Maybe make his strife more with Ziegler and Toulouse, and he has nothing to do with Satine. And they're all pressuring her like, oh, we need you, the Moulin Rouge will fold without Satine here. And so she has this huge burden of like, everyone's relying on me, so even though I'm sick, I have to keep pushing through, and I have to find a way to survive this, so that if I don't win, the Moulin Rouge will close and everyone will be out of work and it'll be my fault. She does that to herself, which is stupid. But that's more interesting than, oh, is she going to choose love with Christian, or is she going to, it's not that she doesn't like the Duke. I think she thinks he's fine as a person, but is like, oh, but being with him is not about love. It's about security. It's about not being hungry or on the street. It's about finally not being poor. They do talk about how she's getting older too. And she's like, right, he might be the last real gentleman caller that I get, being a lady of the night. Yeah, that whole plot is just weird. It's better here, but it's still a problem. I don't know. That's a thing. Oh, another fun thing. I'm not going to tell you what it is. If you've seen the show, or if you go see the show, the Act 2 opening number is probably the best Act 2 opening number I've ever seen, except for maybe Masquerade. Phantom is just so important to me. I love Masquerade so much. If this doesn't pass Masquerade on my favorite Act 2 openers, it's drafting it hard. It is right on its heels. It's so good. I'm not gonna tell you what it is. Go experience it for yourself. Be wowed by it. That was probably my favorite, one of my favorite parts. It's a good time. It's funny. Again, if you're familiar with the movie, I think everything you have to have for the movie is here. Now, they changed the order of a couple things, and they changed the plot, which I already talked about. But I do think it's all either because this is more appropriate for this medium, or it just helps this version of the story. So those are my thoughts. I think that's it. So yeah, Moulin Rouge. Go see it. Why? Because you can. Because you can. Because you can. So that's it for now. Those are my thoughts, and I'll be back again soon. I got a couple more shows up my sleeve, so I'll be back later. Bye.